It really brings me a special kind of joy to seeing Transformers doing well, especially hearing about Transformers 1 and that it's actually a very good movie, and seeing that that movie is doing for a lot of people what the Bayformers movies actually did for me. It's really kind of hard to put into words since, as much as I do love Godzilla, Transformers is only slightly below that. And if it wasn't for the Bayformers Transformers movies, this channel wouldn't exist. I've still yet to see Transformers 1, and I plan to hopefully very soon see it. Hopefully I can get my dad and my brother actually come on the channel and when we talk about the movie after we see it. The reason for that being is Transformers 2007 was actually the first movie that really solidified the idea that my dad, my brother, and I go and see movies together. A tradition which has stood the test of time, nearly going on through 2 decades at this point. So today we're going to be talking about Transformers 1 and really what this means for the future of the Transformers series. And if you enjoy that kind of stuff, movies, kaiju, anime, and everything like that, don't forget to subscribe for more. It is the best way to help support the channel out, and comment your thoughts below on really Transformers and any series you enjoy. We'd love to have you. To put some things in perspective, I've actually known about Transformers and been watching it for really almost 2 decades at this point. My first introduction to Transformers wasn't actually the Bayformers movies, it was Transformers Cybertron. I barely remember a thing about that series, but hey, it got me into Transformers and got me to go watch the Michael Bay movies, so hey, we did something right. It was actually because of the Michael Bay movies that I decided to dive further into the rabbit hole of the series, eventually watching Transformers Animated when it came out, and Transformers Prime, which I still to this day say is the best iteration of Transformers we've ever gotten, then getting the Fall of Cybertron and War for Cybertron games. And to anyone that hasn't seen the Transformers movies on the big screen for the first time, it really was an experience. It's not really something you can easily put into words. There really are some movies that are just meant to be seen on a big screen, things like Transformers, Godzilla, Avengers Endgame, these big movies where you need that sense of scale that just a TV screen can't really do justice. It's actually kind of funny that originally it was actually going to be the Attack on Titan Season 2 video, but that kind of got pushed off because, of all things, a tweet from Zentreya from VShojo actually is what spurred on this whole thing. So that will be coming out in 2 weeks, as next week it is the 70th anniversary of Godzilla, and we are planning on doing something special for the King of the Monsters for that. Whether it's the movies, Transformers Animated, to Prime, to Beast Wars, and the video games, or even the movies, as hit or miss as some of them may be, the series is actually quite large, and a lot of people are discovering that Transformers does have a very large degree of lore, the backstories on the characters, that it's not just this action robot punch fest. On the surface, it is this grand story of heroes versus villains, good versus evil. It delves into a lot more than that. You have complex heroes and villains who are sympathetic. You have even those who are heroic, on the heroic side, the Autobots. They're not exactly what you would call heroes. They're not exactly good people, or good bots in this case. Just as you have Decepticons who are not exactly without their redemptive qualities. You've got Autobots like Prowl, who's really just kind of a straight-up jackwagon. Or even really the way the Autobots behaved back in Transformers Animated, where they despised anything organic, really other than Team Prime on Earth. And then you've got Decepticons, who are not just the embodiment of pure evil. You have Starscream in the Transformers Armada series, who was an honorable warrior. One who even defected from the Decepticons briefly to join the Autobots, seeing as they were the morally correct side, and that the Decepticons did not have honor. They didn't value his honor, they didn't value the way he conducted himself, and all the abuses of Megatron eventually drove him away. Now, he did eventually return to the Decepticons, as it was in his programming, but it did bring up an interesting discussion of, was it just the programming, or is he more than that? To Dreadwing in Transformers Prime, who is similarly an honorable warrior. However, he still fights with the Decepticons because he will never side with Prime. All of this culminating in, after discovering that his twin brother was not only slain by Prime and Bumblebee, but then resurrected by Dark Energon as a mindless zombie and his grave desecrated by Starscream, and Megatron, fully aware of this, still allowed him to continue on joining the Decepticons, realized that Megatron had no honor, that he was simply being used, by the Decepticon warlord as nothing more than a blunt tool, eventually did betray the Decepticons, gifting Optimus Prime the Forge of Solus Prime, a relic vital to the survival and resurrection of Cybertron in the Transformers Prime series. However, as he states, betraying his kind is not the same as joining his, referring to Optimus Prime and the Autobots. Sadly, this last noble act does cost him his life as he is about to destroy Starscream, and Megatron slays him with his own weapon. That's why I'm so glad that Transformers 1 actually did very well. People are saying it was a very good origin telling of Optimus and Megatron, going from Orion Pax and D16 to who we know today. And I've always wanted to see that journey, especially for the characters, because we know Optimus, we know Megatron, we know the endpoint. We've seen them many, many times after the millions of years of the Cybertronian Civil War. But we never really got to focus on their origins. Where do they come from in a lot of these major media sensations? Now, there's been comics, novels that have gone into this, but not really to this scale. And this deep lore of the Transformers extends far beyond just Optimus and Megatron from, again, D16 and Orion Pax. You have everything from the Dinobots to Shockwave to Soundwave to Bumblebee, Omega Supreme, and just if there's a Transformer you can think of, there's a long backstory on all of them. And I'm hoping that with the success of Transformers 1 and the fact that its sequels, as it has 2 of them, were already scheduled and planned on, will really show people want more of this. That this can go beyond just simply 3 movies into a massive multimedia basically empire of things, much like the Monsterverse, or at least the best of what the Monsterverse could have been before mismanagement kind of ruined it. I'd love to see, even just single movies or even just shortened series, multi-part miniseries on any of these bots. Especially, I love the Dinobots myself, especially Starscream and the Seekers. But I could easily see even a 3-part or even a 2-part series on a group of 5 gladiators, former opponents and compatriots of Megatron in the gladiatorial arena, eventually join the Autobots, and really where the conflict between the somewhat Decepticon-like mindset that the Dinobots do have and that might makes right, and that the strongest should be in charge, conflicts with the, leadership of Optimus Prime, and why does they join the Autobots rather than the Decepticons, who really far more aligned with some of their outlook. Now, there are reasons why Grimlock doesn't join the Decepticons. He believes that it is wrong for those with power to abuse that over those weaker than them. But it could be great to see, because Grimlock and the Dinobots are not nice. They are good guys, but they are not good. And seeing how these 5 eventually went from these gladiators into being captured and ambushed by a mad scientist, ripped apart and transformed, or rather converted into the Dinobots. To Starscream and Jetfire and the Seekers going from their fallout into Jetfire joining the Autobots, the Decepticons eventually getting the Seekers. Just, there's so many stories that you can tell with all of the characters and that we have seen before and have seen quite well. But really going back and exploring those origins, because we get a bit of flashbacks in a lot of the different series. We never got full-length tellings of them. I'd actually really love to see a more accurate depiction and origin story for Unicron. And, the whole threat that he poses, because Rise of the Beast didn't really do a great job of that. And seeing that there's a very realistic possibility of all of that happening it warms my heart. Because the more that people say and the more that people go and support this movie and support, peripheral side things of it, the more the studios will see that this is something people want, that people will go to, and they will make more. I'm sorry if this was a bit more of a rambling video than usual. Thank you all for tuning in. If you haven't done so already, don't forget to subscribe for more. Comment your thoughts below and let me know what you thought. What would you like to see most of a future Transformers series? I've been Max Allo. Transform and rise up.